it's IdkWhatsRc, and this is my level 1 to 120 Dungeoneering guide for EoC. So in this video we'll cover everything you need to know about getting fast experience in Dungeoneering, including all the new and recent updates, such as the Dungeoneering tasks. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about some influence stuff. So things that will impact the amount of experience you'll get in Dungeoneering. So first, there are the skills. Before training Dungeoneering, I would highly recommend you to get 64 magic to be able to use a very useful teleportation spell in Dungeoneering. After that, there's combat, especially if you plan to play with other players. 43 prayer for the protection prayer, and Dungeoneering is a skill where all the other skills are very useful. Actually, all the skills are used within Dungeoneering, so I would recommend about 60 in all skills if you want to train Dungeoneering seriously. But yeah, keep in mind that this is only my recommendation. You can train Dungeoneering with no requirement, basically. Another thing that will really impact the amount of experience you will get is the Daemonheim tasks. So by completing those tasks, you will be able to get special effect, such as dying without penalty every day. You will also be able to do faster floors because you will receive a second personal Gatestone. So you probably don't know yet what it is, but this is really overpowered. So if you have it, it will really boost the amount of experience you will get. So if you can do this task, you will also get free runes, be able to choose the boss every day. You will also have a secondary role with the Ring of Kinship. I will cover all those things later in the video. So I would recommend, if you can, to do the task first. There's also a quest called Salt in the Wound that will boost the amount of ammunition you can bound by 100. It's not really that useful, but it's better than nothing. Okay, so now for the location, Dungeoneering is trained at only one spot, and it's Daemonheim. And the fastest way to get there is to use a Ring of Kinship. Thing is, you will receive the ring after being there for the first time. So the first time what you need to do is to teleport to Al-Kharid and run west to the docks, use the docks there to go to Daemonheim. Okay, so now let's talk about the basics of Dungeoneering. So what it is exactly? Well, long story short, it's skills where you need to complete floors, also known as dungeons. So you start a dungeon, you explore it, there will be doors to open, puzzle to complete, monsters to kill, and at the end of the floor there will be a boss. You will kill it and end the floor. After ending the floor, you will receive experience in Dungeoneering. So when you will want to start a floor, you will need to choose its attributes, and there are 4 different attributes. The first one is the floor level, and this is probably the most important one. It will affect which theme it will be. So if it's floor 1 to 11, it will be a frozen floor, for example. If it's over 48, it will be a warped floor, and each of the theme have a bunch of monster, puzzle, and boss that are unique. So in total there are 60 floors ranging from 1 to 60, and each of them will require a certain Dungeoneering level. It's about the floor level divided by 2 will be the Dungeoneering level required. After that, there's the floor complexity, which will affect the amount of skills that will be involved. So if you choose 1, there will be only combat skills involved, so it's only killing monster. If you choose complexity 6, all skills will be involved, so there will be puzzle that will require you to have high level in other stats. Obviously, the floor level and complexity will impact the amount of experience you will get at the end. You can also choose the floor size. Small is a 4x4 map, all the way to large, which is a 8x8 map. You can also set the floor difficulty, which is basically the combat level of the monster in the dungeon. And this range from 1 to 5, which is also the party size. And finally, a last thing I want to mention is that if you want to do a large floor, your team needs to have at least 3 players. A very important thing to understand with the floors is the prestige system. So every time you complete a floor, it gets checked in your floor list. And if you repeat this floor, then another floor on the same thing, for example, frozen floor, will be checked. But the thing is, if all the floors are already checked for this theme, you will receive a huge experience penalty. So this means you cannot simply repeat the same floor again and again. To get the best experience, you will need to complete them all. But yeah, obviously, after a while, all the floors in your list will be checked. And what you need to do in that situation is to reset your progress by pressing the reset button on your Ring of Kinship, like I will show you very soon. And that, what it will do is that it will uncheck all the floors, but only press it if they are all checked. So when exploring the dungeon, you will need to open different doors. One of them is the guardian door, and what it means is that you will need to kill all the monsters in the room to open it. There is only one exception, and it's the monster called Mastis that are not aggressive anyway. After that, there's the skilling doors, and to open it you will need to use a certain skill. The skill requirement can be over level 99, and this means you will need to craft a potion and use it to open the door. I won't really cover potion in this video, but you can click the link in the description to go check out the full list of all the potion you can craft. And also there's the puzzle rooms. So yeah, there's a lot of different puzzles that you will need to complete to open the door, but I won't really cover that in this video either. I will simply suggest you to click the link in the description for the full list and how to complete them. Another special type of doors is the key doors. So when doing a dungeon, you might find some keys on the ground, and it's very important to pick them because the only way to open a key door is to have the right key. For example, to open a silver pendant door, you will need to have a silver pendant key. And finally, there's the boss room. So there's only one per dungeon, and inside there will be a boss that you will need to kill to end the floor. So inside there's a ladder that will bring you back to the surface. And one thing to know is that once you have entered a boss room, you cannot simply leave it by clicking the door again. Another special thing about Dungeoneering is that you cannot bring the items you own in the regular RuneScape. So you can only use the items you have bound to yourself while being in Dungeoneering. The amount of items you can bind to yourself depends on your Dungeoneering level. So at level 1 you can only bind 1 item, then 20 it's 2, 50 it's 3, 90 is 4, and finally 120 is 5 items. And you will also be able to bind ammunition to yourself, and finally 1 potion if you have completed the Dungeoneering tasks. The very first thing I recommend you to bind is a weapon, and the weapon I recommend is the 2-end sword. After that, the second bind should be a plate body, for example a primal plate body. Then you will want to bind another weapon which has a different attack style. For example, a short bow or a staff would be a good idea. After that, I would recommend to bind a block necklace. It will increase the damage per second you will be able to deal, and then a shadow silk hood that will make you invisible to other monsters. That's very useful. And finally, the plate legs. So I've mentioned 6 of them. So if you cannot find, for example, a block necklace, you simply move on to the other recommendation. For the ammunition, I would recommend to bind arrows if you are using a short bow, otherwise it will be law. Binding law and cosmic is not really needed anymore because of the Dungeoneering tasks, but there's nothing much to bind except that. And for the potion, I would recommend the artisan potion because that's the most useful one to open doors. Okay, so let's go to Daemonheim using the Ring of Kinship, otherwise you can use the docks in Alcarade. So let's go over the party interface. You will need to form a party even if you want to train Dungeoneering alone. In the menu you can choose to share your experience or not. This is not Dungeoneering experience but other skill experience. I would recommend to put it off. There's the list of all the skills, the floors actually. So as you can see, the floor 1 is checked, the floor 2 is not checked, so I will do the floor 2. You can also choose the complexity, so 1 to 6, I will choose 6. There's also the reset button if you want to reset your prestige, so uncheck all the floors, but only click it if all the floors are done, so I won't click it. You can also invite other players to your party by right clicking and using the invite option. So once your party is complete, you want to start a dungeon. Don't forget that you cannot bring any item except your Ring of Kinship inside the dungeon. So I will do a small floor, but it doesn't really matter right now. So you will start in this room. There will always be a smuggler where you can buy different stuff. For example, feathers and vial, like I will explain later. You can also talk to the smuggler if you have completed the Dungeoneering tasks to get free law and cosmic runes. Another very useful feature is the minimap. You'll be able to see what rooms you have unlocked. And for example, if I open a door, it will open a room and I will be able to see it in the minimap, and the arrows represent the players. You can also use the smuggler to bind items to yourself. So this is the bound item setup. You can bind a potion. I haven't done it in this video, but yeah, when I started the dungeon, I only had 5 different items on me. I can choose to add or remove some of them. So let's put a Shadow Silk hood on myself. You can also customize the Ring of Kinship, and this is what I will cover right now. So yeah, the Ring of Kinship will give you a special boost in Dungeoneering, or even 2 boosts if you have completed the Dungeoneering tasks. So 4 of them are very popular. There's the Berserker that will boost your DPS with 2 end weapons for melee. There's the Desperado for range, Blazer for magic, and finally the Gatherer that you will get more material and less damaged when opening doors. So those are the 4 I recommend. I would personally recommend to get Berserker and, for example, Desperado if you're using melee and range. You can also improve the effect or the boost of the Ring of Kinship by spending tokens that you will get after completing a floor. So in total there are 10 different tiers, but I would recommend to get about tier 7. It's the best cost efficient spot. A very important item in Dungeoneering is the group Gatestone. So there's only 1 per team, and what it does, long story short, you drop it on the floor, and then at any point during the dungeon you can use teleport to GGS, group Gatestone, to be teleported right next to it. So it's very useful to travel a lot of distance very fast. And the group Gatestone can be used by any player. It will cost 3 law runes and 64 magic. And this is why at the very beginning of the guide I recommend you to have 64 magic, because you're going to use teleport to GGS very, very often. There's also something called a personal Gatestone, or just Gate, and this is personal, so each player has 1 or 2 depending on if you have completed or not the Dungeoneering Elite tasks. So those you can only see and use it yourself, and you will first need to create it with the Create Gatestone spell that will cost 3 cosmic and 32 magic, or level 90 if you're using the red one, which is the one from the tasks, and after using it, it will be consumed, unlike the group Gatestone that will stay alive no matter how many times you use it. After that, there's the tools and the Toolbelt that are also very useful. The very first thing you want to do in Dungeoneering is to trade the smuggler and buy all the different stuff to put in your Toolbelt, but still there are items that are needed for some puzzle, but yet you cannot put them in your Toolbelt. Those are the vial and the feathers that you will need to buy at every floor beginning. Also, like I mentioned before, when doing a dungeon you might find keys on the ground, and it's very, very important to pick them up, otherwise you might simply run in circles and never find the boss. So when picking a key, it will not appear in an inventory, it will appear in the group inventory. So this means any players can use it. You don't have to trade the keys, and in total there are 8 shapes and 8 colors, so in total there are 64 different keys possible. Now let's talk about the equipment system in Dungeoneering. So all the different equipment pieces come in 11 different forms, ranging from tier 1, which is the worst, all the way to tier 11, which is the best. So the tier 1 to 10 can be simply crafted yourself or found randomly during the dungeon, while the tier 11 can only be obtained after killing a certain boss at the end of the dungeon. And I put on the screen the 6 most common tier 11 stuff that you will want to obtain and the boss that is dropping them. There is also special or unique items. 2 of them are very useful. First of all, there's the Shadow Silk hood, and its effect is that it will turn the player invisible to humanoid, except the mages. So this is very useful if you don't want to get it all the time. But the only way to obtain it is by killing night spiders that spawn randomly in the dungeon. Another very useful unique is the blood necklace that will boost the amount of damage you will do and also regen your life once in a while. and it's only obtained by killing the monster called Idimu at level 90 Slayer. There's also the X Hunter Bow that I haven't mentioned in this video because now with the EoC, the X Hunter Bow deals less damage than the Sagittarian Shortbow. There are two main ways to train Dungeoneering. You can train it solo, so you won't need to find any team. You can be away from keyboard, train other skill within the floor. It's also easier, but there's a big downside to it. You will get less Dungeoneering experience per hour. On the other hand, you can train it with other players, up to 5 players per team, so 4 other players, and you will get more experience, but you will need to find a team, which can be quite annoying. You will also need to stay focused if you don't want to get kicked, and it might be frustrating and harder. If you want to train Dungeoneering with other players, you will need to learn the Dungeoneering slang. So those are the most common ones. There are tons more of them, but the most important one to know is GT, which means group teleport, and you will use it very often to tell people that if they teleport using the group Gatestone, where they will ends up. So it can be a guardian door, GD, or the boss, GDB, or the end of the floor, GTE. There are two main ways to complete a floor. There's the rushed floor and the regular floor. So the goal with the rush floor is to complete the floor as fast as possible, no matter what. So to do that, you will need to set all the difficulty to the lowest. So complexity 1, difficulty 1 out of 5 players, and you will also set it to small. And once you have found the boss, you do not open the other doors, you simply kill it and end the floor. So this is used to check the lowest level floors, like we'll explain later, because those anyway won't give really good experience, but you do need to complete it to check it. After that, there's the regular floors, and those are the ones that you will receive the experience from. So you will need to put the highest difficulty possible, so complexity 6, difficulty 5 out of 5, and large. And you will want to open all the possible doors, so you will get the most out of each floor. The rule to know if you need to rush or not the floor is the follow. So if you're below level 91 Dungeoneering, you will want to rush all the floor except the last thing. So this means complexity 1, 1 out of 5 difficulty, and small. And the last 10 floors, you will want to do them full. And for the size, it will depend on the floor level. If the floor level is below 30, you will want to do a small one. If it's over 30, you will want to do it a large. And if you're above level 91 Dungeoneering, floor 1 to 35 will be all rushed, and the 36 actually, and more will be regular large, which means that all the occult and warp floor should be always regular. But yeah, obviously keep in mind that those rules are not set in stone. So those are a few examples of what I've just mentioned. So for example, if the maximum floor you can do is floor 6, so you're about level 12, you will want to complete the floor 1 to 6, regular, small. If the maximum is 42, you will want to rush floor 1 to 32, and 33 to 42 will be regular, large. If the max is 35, you want to rush 1 to 25, 26 to 29 will be regular, small, and 30 to 35 will be regular, large. Okay, so now we'll talk about the ability bars in Dungeoneering. So I will recommend to have 2 for your 2 main attack styles, and what I recommend is to have 1 for melee and 1 for range. So the 3 first abilities, so Slice, Punish, and Smash, the main point is to get Adrenaline. Seaver is very good DPS. For Cleave and Hurricane, they're very good in Dungeoneering because they can attack multiple monsters at the same time. And finally, Assault is very good. It requires Adrenaline, but it deals a lot of damage to a single monster. Now for range, I would recommend to get Piercing Shot, Dazing Shot, and Binding Shot to get the Adrenaline. Then there's Ricochet and Fragmentation Shot, which are good because they hit multiple monsters. And finally there's Snapshot and Rapid Fire, which deals a lot of damage but needs Adrenaline. Also for both ability bars, I would recommend to get the teleportation spells. So create Gatestone, Gatestone Teleport, create Gatestone 2, Gatestone Teleport 2 if you have completed the Dungeoneering task. Otherwise you can remove them and change it for whatever you want. And finally group Gatestone Teleport. So yeah, that's pretty much it about this part 1. I hope you liked it, and don't forget to click the annotation on the screen to go check out the part 2 of my level 1 to 120 Dungeoneering guide, where I will be explaining and showing you how to actually train Dungeoneering with demos, and I will also analyze the rewards.